Russia election 2024. Russia will not be intimidated, according to Putin's victory address on Election Day. As he celebrated the former spy's election triumph, Vladimir Putin declared Russia will not be intimidated and made him Russia's longest-serving leader in over 200 years. The 71-year-old has spearheaded a merciless crackdown on everyone openly opposing his authority or his military offensive in Ukraine, and all of his key opponents are either dead, in prison, or exiled. Putin addressed a press conference at his campaign headquarters in Moscow early Monday, hours after polls closed, and expressed his gratitude to all inhabitants of the country for their support and trust. No one in history has ever been able to subdue us, our will, or our consciousness, no matter how much they attempt to frighten or scare us. It has failed thus far and is unlikely to succeed going forward. Never, he chimed in. According to official election figures shown by Russian news agency RIA, with more than 99% of voting stations having returned results, Putin had secured 87% of all votes cast. There was no real opposition, and he still managed to win the presidency. It's a record. Vandalism at voting places, pro-Kiev sabotage groups' excursions into Russian territory, and a rise in lethal bombardments from Ukraine were all features of the three-day election. Voting was also taking place in areas under Russian control in Ukraine, but the Kremlin framed the poll as an opportunity for Russians to show their support for the full-scale military campaign. Sozzled by authority. In a speech he gave after the election, Putin thanked the Russian forces fighting in Ukraine in particular. Additionally, he persisted in asserting his forces' superiority in the battlefield, even after a week during which pro-Ukrainian militias conducted violent raids on Russian border towns and Ukraine launched some of its most significant aerial attacks on Russia. The Russian military forces have full ownership of the initiative. Our soldiers are just mowing them down, the enemy, in some parts, he claimed. The people of Kiev and its allies thought the vote was a farce. Russian President Volodymyr Zelensky called Vladimir Putin a dictator and a drunk from power in a scathing attack. When it comes to maintaining his own authority, Zelensky declared, there is no evil he will not commit. European Union Chief Charles Michel had mockingly congratulated Putin on his landslide triumph on Friday, the first day of voting. In a statement stating this is not what free and fair elections look like, British Foreign Minister David Cameron chimed in on the protests, echoing American criticism of the vote's location in Ukrainian territory seized by Moscow. After Putin's re-election, the heads of state from Bolivia, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua all extended their congratulations. Until Catherine the Great in the 18th century, no Russian leader has remained in power longer than Putin, should he finish another full term in the Kremlin. Supporters of Putin's main opponent, Alexei Navalny, who passed away last month in an Arctic prison, attempted to thwart his inevitable triumph by encouraging a stampede of voters to cast invalid ballots at noon. Supporters in Berlin showered flowers and cheers on his wife, Yulia Navalnaya. She claimed to have marked her ballot with the name of her late husband after casting her ballot at the Russian embassy. Dear Mr. Navalny. According to AFP, some Moscow voters heeded the opposition's request and came to the polls in remembrance of Navalny to demonstrate their discontent in the most lawful manner. At a voting station in the heart of Moscow, 19-year-old student Artem Minasian declared, I came to show that there are many of us, that we exist, that we are not some inconsequential minority. Those who tampered with their votes will have to be dealt with, Putin said, adding that the protest had no effect. Putin referred to Navalny's death as a sad incident in his initial remarks regarding the matter last month. As for Mr. Navalny, Putin stated during a televised news conference, using his name publicly for the first time in years. He did, in fact, die. Unfortunately, this happens every time. According to Putin, a coworker had suggested trading Navalny for some persons incarcerated in Western countries a few days prior to his death. I agreed before the other person could even finish their sentence. In addition to Putin, former Russian leader Dmitry Medvedev congratulated him on his splendid win prior to the official announcement of the results. Russians have shown colossal support for the president and the nation has unbelievably consolidated behind its leader, according to state-run media.